Welcome to the Boston Barrister, Kevin Seaver, bringing you insights about your family and the world.
Welcome to the Boston Barrister. My name is Kevin Seaver, and I'm located in Boston, Massachusetts as a lawyer. This week's episode is going to be, what do you do when you're involved with the school system and DCF? What you do when you're involved with the school and DCF, you must understand that the Constitution reads, we the people, not we the adults. So not only do you have constitutional rights, but so does your child. And I don't care how young your child is, they have constitutional protected rights. So when DCF comes into the picture and you're dealing with a school, you're dealing with not one governmental agency, Department of Children and Families, you're dealing with two, because the schools are the government as well. And I'm asked this question all the time. Who are the number one filings of 51A reports to the Massachusetts Department of Children and Families? And that's a simple answer. It's the schools. They're the number one filers of 51As regarding children that may be experiencing allegations of child abuse or neglect. So DCF interviews a lot of cases involving schools, the most of any mandated reporters, because there's so many people in the building. Basically, everyone in the school is a mandated reporter, literally. Whether it's the principal, the vice principal, the teachers, the para-aides that assist the teachers, the guidance counselor, the nurse, the gym teacher, the music teacher. All these people have the affirmative duty by the legislature that if they suspect abuse, they don't have the discretion, they must file. And they must file immediately, not after breakfast, lunch, and dinner, immediately. So that's an issue I see all the time. Recently had a case. Child's name was Johnny, not his real name. And DCF got a report a week later after the alleged incident at school had happened. So needless to say, the first thing I rose with DCF was, wait a minute, folks. This happened a week ago. And DCF acknowledged that. It was a good response work. And the response worker has to be the individual that's doing the investigation around DCF. But we're going to get to that. Now, the first thing you must understand as a parent is less is more. You have constitutional rights, so is your child. Do not allow yourself nor your child to speak to anyone. That includes the school and DCF. Now, why is this? Because when DCF knocks on your door, they're going to ask you all types of questions, and they're going to be writing down everything you say. And everything you say may end up in their court report. Usually it does. It'll end up going to every court that you ever go to after that, or possibly a fair hearing if it's reported against you. You really got to be smart and think through this. You do not want to get and tell DCF anything until you get yourself the first step. After you come down from this awful allegation against you, realize that you're a layperson. Because you're a layperson, you don't understand the process, the procedure, the protocol of DCF. You don't understand the time standards that DCF has to do the investigation, which may be an emergency investigation when therefore it's 5 days it must be completed by, or if it's a non-emergency, it's 15 days. So that's 3 5s, 15 days. And these days are not Saturday or Sunday, weekends, or holidays. So what happens is that these investigations can go on a lot further than the 5-day emergency can turn into a non-emergency 15 days. In the 15 days, DCF can ask for an extension, more time. And often they do. I've had cases go on for 3-4 months, and they come to your house as many times as they want. So why do I say, number one, hire a lawyer? The earlier you get a lawyer on board, the more they can basically tell you what is the process, procedures, and protocols. What are the time standards to accomplish this investigation? What is the statutes and the regulations and the laws that not only cover you as a parent, but more importantly, DCF? Because it's really important to understand. And I have clients say this all the time to me. Ignorance of the law is no defense. And I'll have clients saying, well, Attorney Seaver, I didn't know. You can't use that because you're going to get a parent's pamphlet and they're going to give it to you after they visit with you in most circumstances. And when they hand it to you, you're about to face listening to numerous questions by DCF. You're not going to get an opportunity to read that parent's guide. And in that parent's guide on page 3, top right-hand corner, it's going to say you're entitled to counsel, which means moi, a lawyer, at any time. Now, DCF is telling you this. And the reason DCF is telling you this is because DCF is a very serious governmental agency dealing with very serious issues, child abuse, child neglect. And the outcomes can have sensational impact, very serious impact. on your life, your children's life, and the rest of your life. And the consequences are dire. They can take your child out of your home without even a piece of paper. And I do not want to scare you or make you afraid. But I need to tell you this because I can't begin to tell you how many times clients have come to me after they were involved with the school and after they were involved with DCF, and they'll say, Attorney Seaver, I didn't know what my rights were. And I just say to them, I said, well, why'd you go forward then if you didn't understand what your rights are? And they'll say to me, well, I didn't know. I figured I could, I had nothing to hide. And when I hear that, I just want to pull my hair out of my head. It's not as if you have something to hide. It's just that you don't know what DCF is going to ask you. So many times DCF will come into your home, knock on your door, and just start asking you questions. And you don't even know what they're going to ask you. So how can you be prepared to answer their questions? And the answer is you don't. And that's why so many cases get supported. And then you allow them. The second biggest mistake they made is, besides the parents not being prepared, not hiring a lawyer, is they allow their children, who again, it's we the people, not we the adults. Your children have constitutional rights. They also entitled to counsel, to a lawyer that will implement and execute their constitutional rights. Now, who's coming out to speak to you, okay? And I want to be clear about this. Who's coming out to speak to you is a social worker. And there is some unbelievable, outstanding social work. And DCF's going to say, did you really just say that? It's right? Yeah. And I'll repeat it. There are some outstanding, unbelievable social workers. And I can tell you chapter and verse till I'm blue in the face. But there's also some awful social workers. And those are the ones that I usually engage with, at fair hearings with, when they support against my clients based upon baseless, bogus, false allegations. But you can stop all that. Make sure your rights are protected. And this is what you've got to do. But most importantly, your children. And so what do? DCF comes into the house. Oh, we have to interview your children alone. No, you don't. But all the parents, what do they say? Okay. And they go right along with the ride. And you've just violated your rights as a parent, but more importantly, your children. And these are all self-inflicted gunshot wounds. After the case, I get the 51A report and the 51B, and I read the 51B, and social worker speaks to the child alone. Almost every time I get a report that's supported, again and again and again. Now, I recently had a social worker, really good social worker, by the way. She said, well, we have to interview the children alone. I said, not in this lifetime. Okay, there's a new sheriff in town. You're not doing that. Okay? And so we had the children come out and ask the questions with the parents present. Now, having said that, the social worker challenged me and said, Attorney Seaver, it's in our policy. I said to her, I've read your policy over and over and over again. And I've read your statutes and your regulations and the laws. There's nowhere, no how, no way that is in there. Again, your children have important fundamental constitutional rights, but only if you as a parent implement them. And you're hurting yourself, but more importantly, your children. The parents will tell me, oh, most important thing in my life is my children. Well, you just screwed your own kids and yourself. And then after that, they'll say to me, I didn't know. I had nothing to hide. And that just doesn't fly, okay? And you're probably a parent listening to this right now, and you say, oh, God, I did exactly what Attorney Seaver said I shouldn't do. And you're not alone. You're not alone. You're not alone. I see it all the time, and I want to just cry. I just want to bang my head on the table. Now, I want you to know that every time I meet with a client, I tell them the same thing. Some of the best people I've ever met work for DCF, as well as some of the worst. And that is so true of lawyers. There's some really great lawyers and there's some not so much. And that's true of everything in life. I don't care what you look at. There's good, bad, or indifferent in every walk of life. That's just the way it is. Now let's get back to the school part. The school may or may not understand what's going on here. And this is something that I talk to social workers about all the time, about not interviewing the kids at school because it's traumatic. That's one of the safe places for children. And in certain circumstances where there's domestic violence possibly on the table, they may want to go speak to the children, make sure they're safe and where they're going home that night. And I get that. But the social workers are just that. The social workers, they are not attorneys. So parents sometimes get really upset with social workers. You shouldn't. Like yourself, they're lay people. They have not been to law school. And they are what you call, quote unquote, clinical. Well, I always say to parents, how many sides to a coin? That's easy, Attorney Seaver. I had one recently, Janice said to me, there's two sides of the coin. I said, really? What are they? She said, well, you got heads and you got tails. I said, okay. And how'd you learn that? Well, that's what they do on the football games. Heads, one team gets the ball, tails, the other team gets the ball. I said, that's good. But there's three sides to a coin. There's heads, tails, and also the rim. And that's true of every single DCF case. There's three sides to the case. There's the evidence and the facts, which we'll master. There is also the law, the statute, the regulations that apply to DCF and to you as a parent. We'll master that too. But there's a third section, and that's called clinical. I am not clinical. I'm not a clinician. And that's what DCF is. They are a clinician. And so they're looked upon in the law as being the expert, quote unquote, in child welfare, because they are clinical. And that's a fair designation. But they do not and should not advise you about facts or evidence. They should not advise you as to what the law, statute, and regulations are, because they are not a lawyer. And so when DCF does that, and oftentimes they may overstep their boundaries as a social worker, I don't ever get mad at them, because I know they're a social worker. They're not a lawyer. Okay, now I recently had a lawyer from DCF write to me about DCF going and not giving me the allegations prior to meeting with my client. And I wrote to her about due process, which is a fancy schmancy word for when you have opportunities, you must have opportunities to be heard. If you're being accused of an allegation of abuse and neglect, it's just fairness that your client should know what's coming at them. But some social workers want to walk in, knock on the door, and just start asking them questions and blindside and sideswipe the parents. That is so wrong, in my humble opinion. But I don't blame the social worker. I don't, because they are not lawyers. But when I get a lawyer, which I still have the email telling me how wrong I was and am, I said, holy cow, holy Toledo. How can you be a lawyer? Did you sleep through constitutional law and due process and all the rights that families and parents and children have? And I just said, maybe the lawyer had a bad day, because I have them. We all do. So, the case is what it is. It'll be what it will be. But parents, you have decisions to make. And if you're going to tell me your most precious asset, and I agree with you, is your children, they are irreplaceable. There's no price on their head. You can put insurance on your home if you're fortunate enough to have and own a home, or your apartment, or on your car if you're fortunate enough to own one, or whatever toy or trinket you have, it's material in nature. You can insure that. Your children are irreplaceable. You can never replace them. So you, as the mama bear and the papa bear, your job is to protect the baby cubs. And here you are making decisions that harm your children, allowing DCF to speak to them alone. You also are answering questions. Less is more. You're not prepared to answer these questions. And you go on and on. Oh, I'm going to sell it. They're going to believe me. They'll see my home. They'll see my spouse. They'll see my children. They'll see the car and the home I own, and on and on and on. That's not what DCF's there for. They've got an allegation, which is your job to corroborate your story and your children's story and disprove theirs. So DCF has documents from the school saying the child was hit, saying that the child said that mommy or daddy sleeps with them, or there's some type of inappropriate boundaries, or possibly even worse. Maybe there's physical abuse, maybe neglect, that the child comes to school and says, I'm not eating, I don't have a lunch. There's no food at home, or I'm scared, or I'm afraid, or some other cockamamie thing. So you must, from the very, very first, by DCF, when they call you, come to your home, or if they send you something in the mail, be sure to lawyer up. Call a lawyer that specializes in DCF, that can guide you and guide you, that will give you value. Because if you don't nip it in the bud up front, in my humble experience, and I'm sure you'd agree, problems don't get smaller, they get bigger. And you want to make sure you nip that problem, because if you don't, DCF supports this decision. Your name goes on the central registry for the next 75 years, which can affect your reputation, your employment. And if you have your job lost, then you lose the salary you're earning. You're also going to lose on your 401k, which is retirement, as well as your medicals. Do not go down that road alone. You also have to understand, too, that this could impact and affect you being possibly a baseball coach, or your visitation, or going on field trips. All types of stuff are being tied into DCF now. And that's changing on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. So get ahead of the curve. Now, when you've got a problem, you want to solve it immediately. And it may cost you a few shekels, but in the end run, a good lawyer is going to save you a lot of money. Why? How do I save you money? I'm glad you asked the question. Here's how I save you money. If you defeat and make sure the original allegation is not supported by the school, then that's going to save a lot of heartache, a lot of anxious and overwhelming feelings. It's also going to lead to you not having to do an assessment, which goes on for about 5 months. But DCF comes out to your house and does a further investigation, does home visits, on and on and on. And at the end of the 5 months, they don't have to close the case. They can keep it open even longer, which is a scary thought. You also, within 30 days of a supported decision, please, I beg you, file for a fair hearing, even if you know you can or can't be successful. protect your constitutional rights. You call us, we will help you. We will serve you. We'll get you the best possible result. This is what we do. This is what we specialize in, is fighting false allegations of child abuse and neglect by the Massachusetts Department of Children and Families. Now, in final statements here, I want you to know that DCF gets a report, and so they have no idea if the school report is valid or not. It's an allegation. But what you do with that is up to you. Now, the social worker, they want to help families, especially children. That's their mandate, to help children. So you need to give them the red meat. You need to give them the evidence. You need to give them the exhibits, the documents, whatever that may be, to show and disprove the allegations and corroborate and prove your story. And if you don't do that, you're going to pay a very high price, not only in time, not only in energy and sleepless nights and not eating and all the confusion and anxiety and anxiousness, but you're also going to pay a lot more money. So it's so much easier and smarter and financially in your best interest to nip this in the bud right up front. Till next time.